The exact moment my father slapped his hand onto the dinner table and demanded I cancel my dream wedding because my spoiled sister was more important than me, I didn't shed a single tear. Instead, I quietly pulled out my phone and deleted his luxury beach house from my corporate account, starting a 72-hour countdown that would leave my entire family completely bankrupt and homeless. They thought I was just a quiet girl who would keep begging for their love, but they had no idea that when they returned home that night, the keys to their entire life would already be locked inside my pocket. When they finally realized that their golden child's sudden lifestyle collapse was caused by the quiet sister they had just discarded, a brutal and unhinged domestic meltdown began. But I was already gone, watching their fake world burn from the comfort of my own success. My name is Julia Mercer. To the business world, I am a very successful property investor and wealth manager. For the past 8 years, I worked day and night to build my career. I manage millions of dollars in land, corporate contracts, and houses. I make all my life decisions based on rules, facts, and legal papers, not on emotions. I never felt the need to brag about my money or post fake luxury photos on social media. I preferred the quiet safety of real financial independence. But to my biological family, my quiet nature was treated as a major flaw. My father, Thomas, and my younger sister, Melanie, never saw me as a successful woman. To them, I was just a boring, single workaholic who existed to serve as their personal bank account. Because I did not constantly cause drama or demand attention, my father assumed my feelings did not matter. He made a toxic rule in our house very early on. Melanie's happiness was the absolute priority, while my hard work was just a tool to fund her dreams. My sister Melanie was a completely spoiled, narcissistic golden child. She refused to hold a real job and spent her time trying to look like a famous fashion influencer on the internet. She cared only about designer clothes, expensive cars, and looking rich to her friends. Whenever her credit cards were maxed out or her business ideas failed, our father would come to me crying. He would beg me to save the family from public shame. For years, I quietly paid off her debts and protected them out of a misplaced sense of family loyalty. The biggest proof of my hidden support was my father's house. 5 years ago, Thomas wanted to move into a beautiful luxury beach house inside an exclusive gated community called Silver Lake Estates. Because his own savings were completely gone from funding Melanie's lifestyle, no bank would give him a lease. To make sure my father had a safe place to live, I used my investment company, Vanguard Trust, to buy the house in cash. I allowed him to live there for free while my company paid all the property taxes. I also acted as the primary co-signer for Melanie's luxury clothing shop downtown, securing a $400,000 business credit line for her that she could never get on her own. I let them live this big lie to keep the peace, letting them believe they were wealthy elites while I secretly held the master keys to their entire reality. 2 years ago, I met Owen, a kind-hearted web designer who loved me for exactly who I was. For the first time in my life, I felt truly happy and respected. Last year, Owen proposed to me and we started planning our dream wedding. Because I owned a beautiful, historic country estate through my company, we decided to host our wedding ceremony there on the first Saturday of September. We spent a full year planning every single detail, from the flowers to the food. I paid for everything myself, pouring my heart into creating a perfect, peaceful day to celebrate our love. Everything changed exactly 6 weeks before our wedding date. Melanie had started dating a wealthy real estate businessman, and she desperately wanted to look important to his rich friends. She decided she needed to host a massive launch party for her fashion brand on the exact same weekend as my wedding. But because she was terrible at planning, the venue she wanted was already booked. Melanie threw a massive tantrum, realizing her social image would be ruined unless she found a beautiful location immediately.
She decided she wanted my wedding venue. On a rainy Tuesday evening, my father called and ordered me to meet him and Melanie at an expensive restaurant downtown for an urgent family meeting. The moment I sat down, the air felt heavy and tense. Melanie was sitting with her arms crossed, pouting like a child, while Thomas looked at me with cold authority. "Julia, we need to talk about your wedding," Thomas said, his voice completely cold. "Your sister is facing a very important moment for her business. Her whole career depends on her hosting this launch party on the first weekend of September. Since you are already using that country estate, I am telling you to cancel your wedding date and give the venue to Melanie." I sat completely still, staring at my father in absolute shock. "You want me to cancel my dream wedding, an event I have planned for a year, just so Melanie can throw a party for social media?" I asked, keeping my voice very calm. "Don't be so dramatic, Julia," Melanie interrupted, rolling her eyes. "You're just having a small, boring wedding with Owen's quiet friends. Nobody cares about your little party. My event will have actual famous people and media coverage. Your wedding can just happen next year. My career cannot wait. Stop being so selfish and give me the venue." I looked at my father, waiting for him to defend me. Instead, Thomas leaned forward, his face hardening. "Your sister is right, Julia," Thomas said. "Melanie's public image and her business are simply more important than your one-day party. You have always been the strong one who doesn't need special treatment. Melanie needs this help right now. If you refuse to cancel your wedding date and give her that date, your entire family will boycott your wedding. We will not come. You will either cancel your wedding tomorrow or you are completely dead to this family." The silence that followed his words was heavy. Melanie sat there with a smug smile, completely sure that family guilt would force me to give up my dream life. They truly believed I would cry and hand over my dream life just to keep their love. But as I looked at their entitled faces, something inside me permanently broke. The chains of family guilt that had held me for years turned to dust. I realized I had spent my entire life begging for love from people who only wanted to use me. "No," I said clearly. My voice did not have any sadness or hesitation.
Thomas's face turned bright red with anger. "What did you just say?" he shouted, slamming his hand hard onto the table, making the glasses rattle. "How dare you talk back to me? If you walk out of this restaurant without helping your sister, you will have no family left on your wedding day." "Then I will have no family left," I replied, standing up slowly. I picked up my purse, turned my back on their shouting, and walked out of the restaurant. The moment I got into my car, I did not cry. The hurt was gone, replaced by a clear, cold plan for absolute revenge. They wanted to show me that I was completely unimportant? Fine. I was going to show them what happens when the hidden foundation supporting their entire fake life suddenly disappears. The next morning, I went straight to my office and called my legal team. I pulled out the deed for the beach house and the bank contracts for Melanie's shop. "Mark," I told my lawyer, my voice completely cold, "I am pulling my company's support. Vanguard Trust is canceling Thomas Mercer's lease at the beach house immediately because of his hostility and threats. Also, I am officially removing my name as the co-signer for Melanie Mercer's business credit line. Send the papers to the court and the bank today. I want everything executed on Monday morning at exactly 9 o'clock. The financial and legal systems move with terrifying speed when a major investor pulls their support. While Thomas and Melanie spent the weekend sending angry text messages to my fiancé and my friends, telling everyone I was a selfish monster, the bank computers were quietly shutting down their world. On Monday morning at exactly 8:45 a.m., a line of cars pulled up to my father's luxury beach house. There were 2 police cars, a large moving truck, and a locksmith van. My father was sitting on his patio reading the paper when armed police officers walked onto his lawn. The lead officer walked up the steps and handed him an official emergency eviction notice from the court. "Sir, this property has been seized by the owner," the officer said strictly. "Your lease is canceled immediately because of a breach of contract. You have exactly 15 minutes to get your ID, your phone, and your clothes. Everything else inside this house belongs to the corporate entity and is being locked down."
Thomas panicked, his voice shaking with fear as the locksmiths immediately began drilling out the old locks, replacing them with electronic security scanners tied directly to my company's network. He was forced to stand on the public sidewalk in his slippers, holding one small suitcase, completely unable to understand that his luxury life had just been deleted. At the exact same time, the second part of my plan hit Melanie's fashion shop downtown. The moment the bank processed my paperwork, removing myself as the cosigner, Melanie's $400,000 credit line was instantly canceled. Because her business was drowning in debt and relied entirely on my money to pay for rent and staff, the bank immediately froze all her accounts.
By 11 o'clock that morning, bank officials arrived at her shop, putting giant closed signs across the glass doors and locking her out of her own store. Melanie's rich boyfriend, seeing the sudden public embarrassment and legal chaos, immediately packed his bags and dumped her, wanting nothing to do with a broke fraud. By Monday afternoon, their fake high society life was completely dead. The news of Thomas's sudden eviction and Melanie's bankruptcy spread through their social circles like wildfire. My phone began vibrating nonstop, showing dozens of missed calls from my father. When I finally answered, the angry, controlling father was gone. He was crying hysterically into the phone, his voice shaking with pure terror. "Julia, you have to stop this right now," Thomas screamed, sounding completely broken. "The police threw me out of my home. Melanie's store has been locked by the bank, and her boyfriend completely left her. We are currently sitting on our suitcases in a cheap, dirty motel room by the highway. How can you do this cruel thing to your own family over a simple disagreement about a wedding venue? You are ruining our lives." "I didn't ruin your life, Father," I answered flatly, looking out the window of my beautiful city office. "You stood in front of me and told me that my life, my marriage, and my happiness were completely unimportant compared to Melanie's vanity. You threatened to ruin my wedding because you thought my kindness was a weakness you could exploit forever. I didn't destroy your world. I simply stopped paying for it. I am done begging for a place in a family that required my own destruction to exist. Enjoy your motel room." I hung up the phone and blocked every single member of the family. 3 weeks later, my wedding day arrived. The country estate was absolutely beautiful, filled with bright sunlight, gorgeous flowers, and the real laughter of true friends and Owen's loving family. As I walked down the aisle, looking into the eyes of the man who truly valued me, I felt an incredible sense of absolute peace. There was no drama, no narcissistic demands, and no toxic favoritism. My father and sister remained in their cramped, cheap motel room, completely cut off from my wealth, forced to face the harsh reality of their own entitlement. Building a successful life requires you to understand a very simple truth. Some people will always mistake your kindness for weakness. Do not let anyone, not even your own family, use your hard work to fund their arrogance while treating you with disrespect. Family blood does not give anyone the right to abuse you or push you into the shadows. When people try to humiliate you or treat your life as unimportant, do not waste your time screaming, crying, or fighting back with anger. The most devastating counterattack is to quietly protect your assets, enforce your legal boundaries, and walk away completely. Let the cold reality of the world teach them the true cost of their actions. Protect your peace, secure your future, and never look back.